Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus one more time. I am so glad that you decided to stop on this post. And I promise you I'll do everything I possibly can to make it worth your while. And it's a very simple matter as far as I am concerned, because the only thing that I'm going to do is share with you the truth. And I say, ladies and gentlemen, that out of all of the truth sayers that you have heard before, I'm sure that this message, this particular message that I'm going to give you today, which is really not a different message than I've been giving to you all the time, but from a different angle. And I don't really think that anybody else, at least the ones that I have heard sharing a message with you about truth, has been as close to the truth as this I'm going to share with you today. You have heard it said that the whole world has been deceived. And I know you laugh at that. You probably wonder, what does that mean? Because you definitely have not been deceived. Yes, my friends, everybody has been deceived. And that means America and every other nation. That means white people and any other people, black, Asian, whatever. We have all been deceived. That means those who are considered as carnal-minded and those who are considered spiritually minded. We have all been deceived. Now, what has really happened for us that's living today, we might not be aware of the deception, because it started so long ago. Even our ancestors were deceived, but even they didn't know, because it happened so long ago. It happened so long ago until it almost seems as if everything is just normal. But here is an indication of how it works. A few years ago, let's say 400 years ago, black people were brought to this country in chains. We were considered slaves, less than human. But there were a group of people who believed that that was okay. They believed that it was justified biblically. See, they were deceived even there, because it took about almost 400 years or more for black people to get from under that metal chain. But there are still many of them under a mental change. Deception, that's the way it works. But how can you recognize when deception is at play? Because it deceives you. It works against you, even when you think it's working for you. The poorest man in America is poor because he's been deceived. The poorest man anywhere in the world is poor because they've been deceived. But you know what? The richest man in America, the richest man in the world, they are in that position because they too have been deceived. But what is it that every man, every human being on the earth wants? What is it? What is it? Well, they want freedom. And in that freedom, they want peace. Every human being on earth. They want to be prosperous because they want their lives to mean something. And having that, they want joy of the life. Every human being on the face of the earth. Not only that, that is experienced in the fulfillment of every individual's dream. I mean, your dream coming true, can you beat it? I don't think so. So these are the things that from the beginning of time until right now, every human being on earth has wanted. And yet, every human being on earth falls in one of the categories that I mentioned earlier. Why? Deceived. Deception has put them there. Now, I'm not going to try to take you all the way back there. That's too far for me to go. But I want to bring it a little bit closer so that you and I and all of us who are listening can understand what's going on. Let's see, a couple of hundred years ago, there was a man who said, Give me the control of money, and I care not who makes the laws. I care not who makes the laws. What does that basically say? People under the influence of money can be manipulated to do any and everything by the one who controls the money. Now, when you want to survive, and all of us want to survive, and there are certain things that are essential for your survival, and you cannot access it unless you got the money, where does that put you? That puts you on the hook of the money. And if you want power, you want to control things, how are you going to do it? It puts you on the hook of the money. So that basically means that every politician, everybody that wants to be in some type of leadership needs money to do it, even if it's just to let you know that they want to be there for you. And so in order to do that, they need the money. That's why you got lobbyists in Washington, D.C. They are talking to the politicians. They are allowing them to know what is required of them in order to get the money. Now, do you think the one who's controlling money is concerned about you? Of course not. They are concerned about themselves. But even they are deceived. Those who control the money, who manipulates the laws, who make policy that affects you in a very, very crazy way, up or down, they themselves are manipulated. I'd like to take you back to one moment in time that we don't know anything about, except we've heard about it, we might have read about it. There was a spirit that took a man who they have said was the Son of God. They said he was born of a Virgin Mary and that he was perfect. Now, is that true or not? They said it, I don't know. But the spirit took him up on the highest mountain. I guess he must have been thinking to himself and said, not just America, not just Russia, not just the east or the west or the north or the south, but if you would listen to the spirit, and what the spirit basically represented was a deception, that ye could rule the whole world, have any and everything that he wanted. Now, if that's hard for you to see, someone wanting and having that kind of option, all you have to do is think about Donald Trump. You know how weak Donald Trump is. You know how powerful Donald Trump wants to be. He lies, he does whatever it takes to be able to manipulate. So you know what and how that works. But according to the story, this particular one refused. Not that he didn't want life and the peace and the prosperity and the freedom and the fulfillment of dreams, but he failed to yield to the lie. He failed to yield to the destruction, to the deception that would be offered if he would go that way. And so, rather than go that way, he went to the tree. That's the story. Now, many of you don't believe that story, and it's not relatively important whether you did or not. You see, many of you believe that Santa Claus exists. And every time that Santa Claus was supposed to come into being according to your belief, action was taken by the people to make it appear as though Santa Claus exists. So it could be possible that if you can believe in Jesus or not, that when the importance of the fact of his existence come into a reality or come into a requirement, that you, the same people that prove that Santa Claus exists, could prove that Jesus exists. But anyway, Here we are. Every person in the world, but let's restrict it to America right now. The poor guy. You don't want to be poor, but there you are. On the street corners with a sign saying, help, give me some money, God loves you. Anything you can do. Now some of the people say you're faking it, that you're just trying to amass a lot of money. And maybe you are. Why? Because you are not being fulfilled. Your dreams are not being met. You are not having those resources and opportunities that every man wants. And so you find yourself doing what you do. That's part of the deception. Many of you have a desire to go to college and get a good education, a better education, but you do not have the funds to do it. Why? And even when you can get a loan, the debt is so deep you don't want to go that way. Why is that a burden? Because of the deception. Many of you need health care. Fall down and break your leg or hurt your leg and you can't go to the doctor because of the co-payment. You can't afford that. And if you don't have insurance, you definitely can't afford the cost. But why does that exist? Because of the deception. You want food. You have to go to the shelters. You have to go to some soup line. You don't want that. But why? Because of the deception. Many of you have all kinds of money. You can travel all over the world. You can do this, you can do that. But you're living in a nation where wars are thought about, terrorism is thought about, planes are being taken out of the sky, and you are just as in an awkward position as anybody, even though you can fly here and fly there and eat this and eat that. But there's no peace because anything can happen to you at any moment in time. Why? Because of the deception. In America and across the world, I mentioned that the deception was brought obvious to us by the one who says, give me the money. In America, you know the politicians don't work for you. They say they will, but they are not controlled by you. They are controlled by the money. Look at them. They are raising hundreds of millions of dollars to come before you and promise you that they're going to do this and going to do that. Who are they getting the money from? From those who wants to control them. It might be those who pay $5. They want to control them. They want their attentions dealt with. But the masses money coming from corporations, coming from investors, coming from people who got googles of money, who control the money. It's not to take you out of poverty. It's not to separate you from crime and violence. That stuff that they talk to you about is an ambition. Only an ambition. But when they get into power, they are brought to the reality of the power. Who is really the power as far as they are concerned? The hundreds of millions of dollars came from other than you. And so now you can see, doesn't matter who they are and what they say they can do. Give me control of the money and I care not who makes the laws, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, whether it's a black or white, whether it's a man or a woman. Give me control of the money and I care not who makes the laws. And you the people, go to the polls and vote. You the people, turn on your television to hear these people talk about their promises. You listen to George Bush. You listen to Barack Obama. You even listen to Donald Trump. And have you gotten any better? The poor are still poor. The super rich are even more richer. Those of you in between are still going through the same changes. Now the women are trying to take over, say they can do it better, not knowing that it doesn't matter who you are. Give somebody the control of the money, and they care not Who makes the laws? So what is being said? If you want to see some changes, some real changes, it has to do with your freedom. If you want to see some changes, it has to do with your peace, your prosperity, your joy, and the fulfillment of your dreams. It's not going to come from those who are standing before you saying, I can do this. They might have good intentions, but they don't control the money. So, does that mean you have to get connected yourselves to the one that makes the money? No, my friends. You must understand that money is a bait that's used to take you off the real plan of life that would really, truly offer you the fulfillment of your dreams. So where do you go? You don't look to me. You don't look for that man behind the curtain. You don't look for the one that's baiting the hook with the money. In other words, you do not look for mankind. Now, how absurd does that must sound? You don't look for man. Well, I say this to you. You're walking on an earth that wasn't made by man. You go fishing with a real bait on your hook to catch food. That wasn't instituted by man. The resources of the earth that are used to meet your needs of survival, they weren't created by man. All of that was done by a power you cannot see, you cannot touch, you cannot feel. You yourselves exist on the earth by a power you cannot see, you cannot touch, you cannot feel. And if all of this exists, is it hard to believe that a man can be born unto a woman without a man's sperm? Oh, it seems difficult. But so is the earth. So are the rivers. So are the trees. So are the resources of the earth. Hey, you can't imagine how that stuff started, but it started. So, you can't put your hands on it. This is the evidence that there's a power somewhere that you can't see, that you can't touch, that you can't feel. But if you, yes, you, who are on the streets, sitting on the corners, begging for cigarettes or picking cigarette butts off the ground, trying to put them together and make you a cigarette, something that's bigger than a butt, to smoke. Are those of you who are coming together trying to get a joint so you can smoke it? You know how a joint make you feel sometimes. It make you feel like everything is going to be all right until you come off your high and you need another joint. Or maybe you're taking an alcoholic drink. Just one more drink will get you over the hump until the drink is gone. Or maybe you're taking heroin or some of this other stuff that's killing people right now, and maybe it'll get you off over the hump. But the ones who's selling you this stuff, they've got the same plan. They want to get over the hump. Because, hey, we've all been deceived. Remember, it's not getting us over the hump. We all come down. It's not getting us any place. So you have to say to yourselves, who can you turn to? I would suggest that you turn to the power you can't see, you can't touch, you can't feel, but is the evidence of all of the true existence. Not as a group, not as Christians or Muslims or this or that, but as an individual. That you turn to that power as an individual. It doesn't mean that you won't come together collectively, but you definitely will not be influenced by tradition, because that can be just the same situation. I'm asking you to think about the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. In this particular town, there were mice, rats, overcoming everything. And the people wanted the rats to be gotten rid of. And there was one who could play a flute. Now these mice and rats and stuff had their own games going. This wasn't a collective where they were just organizing and planning to do things. They just did it because that was the nature of a mouse. That was the nature of a rat. But when they heard this music play, they were drawn by the music. Not by the collective, but by the music. And the Pied Piper was able to play this music. And they all started following the music. And he led them out of the city, straight to a different location, and got rid of them. So what I'm saying to you, that power that you can't see, that you can't touch, that you can't feel, we call it spirit. And if we allow our individual selves to be led by the Spirit, it will open up our eyes and our hearts and our minds so we can see a new way of walking out of the deception that would provide that we could become free, that we could become at peace. We can receive prosperity in our lives, the joy in our lives, and the fulfillment of our dreams. Basically being expressed in ways that those essentials for survival will be met, my friends. We don't have to struggle. We don't have to beat ourselves against the ball, because we recognize that through deception there was lying, there was cheating, there was stealing, there was killing, there was bigotry, there was hatred, there was racism, and it all exists today. Why? Because we are all deceived. But now to this power that I'm referring to you, that you can't see, it will lead you to the things that you definitely want. And how does it work? It works in such a way that you on the streets who are doing those kinds of things that you wish would pass away, that those of you who are lying and cheating and stealing and don't want to, when they're in prison packed, don't want to be there, it will free you from that. It will allow you to engage yourselves in a career, my friends, that gives you your greatest joy, to know who you are, why you are, and being that. Hey, ask the basketball player, ask the athlete. They're the ones who always say they're doing what they want to do and it's so good, and they're getting paid for it too. Well, now, being a teacher, being a ditch digger, being a janitor, being a painter, being a musician, being a dancer, being an instructor, being an architect, all of these various things, you know who you are, you know what you want to do, and you have the door open and you're doing it. That's your greatest joy. And maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you need education. But the doors of education are open for you, unlimited and unrestricted, to avail to you whatever is required so that you can be the best one of you. Not better than anybody else, but the best you can be. My friends, what a joy. What a joy. And then maybe something will happen that you might get sick and need some medical care, but that door is open. From the womb to the tomb. You're talking about freedom. You're talking about peace. You're talking about prosperity. You're talking about joy. You're talking about the fulfillment of your dreams. And it didn't cost you one penny. All it cost was that you open your eyes to the Spirit and not of man, because man is something else when he's relying on man. They come together and work together to deceive and take advantage of others. It happens in your family. It happens in your community. It happens in your state. It happens in your nation. All over the globe, the same process takes place. But now you can see. And you're not being bound by that any longer. You don't care when it started. It could have started in the Garden of Eden, but it's over now because you did it. And yes, even if only one of you do it, it is required for your peace, because I'm telling you, if an individual allows this to happen to them, they will get what is needed for them to live in the middle of all of this hell and be at peace. They will not bend. And if they stand up and care enough about people to start sharing the truth with them, they might be taken out. But if they can all listen to the Spirit, or at least enough of them listen to the Spirit and be moved by the Spirit, they can change the world by being a light in the dark places, by being salt in those places that need some flavor when they're eating. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, the whole nation is deceived. The whole world is deceived. But this is the door for freedom. God. Now, I know those of you on the streets don't want to hear me talking about God, because you say God ain't paying no bills. God ain't going to pay no bills. That money that you get, I don't care if the preacher told you that. I don't care who told you that. That money that you get is a deception to make you think that that is the answer instead of God. Those preachers out there who got a job, it's the same thing. You're working for the devil and trying to tell somebody about God. You have to sacrifice when you don't have to. Once you become in touch with the truth, you will sacrifice. You can't help but sacrifice. Now, God knows that you have been set up in such a way that you need to have your needs met. You must have your needs met. And you've been brought to the point that you can have your needs met only with money. So God is not expecting that to just stop. There are going to be people that's going to continue to receive this money so that they can get the bills paid. But there becomes an understanding that that is deception. That becomes an understanding that that is the anti-God. And though you are receiving money so you can get your bills paid, you know that you're working for the anti-God, and you're planning and you're striving to get rid of the anti-God. That means you're planning to allow God to be manifested in your life in such a way that you're not on the street picking up butts, but you're going to those city governments and saying, I know what you've done. You've deceived me, you're tricking me, and you got me on the streets hustling like a bum because you are keepers of the system, and we're fed up with it and we won't change it. Now the people in the community are coming together because people are talking and they're fed up and saying we're not going to take this stuff anymore. In every city and every town, they're coming together talking to their local officials, and their local officials are not going to be able, but you're going there anyway to let them know that you have compassion. You're not trying to railroad them. And every city and every town now are going to the state, and they're saying to the state, we know that you're deceiving us. We know that you're keepers of the system that's keeping us in bondage, and we're fed up with it because God is now our light, and we demand that you wake up and take not charge, but get in line with us. And you're going to find out that the state is the keeper of the system. And now every city and every town and every state, every state will be going to the national government and saying, we're fed up with it. You're not our leader anymore. Now Trump is not our leader. Republicans are not our leaders. Democrats are not our leaders. God is our leader. And we demand freedom. We demand prosperity. We demand joy in our lives. And we demand the fulfillment of our dreams. And we're not going to settle for less. And when you say that, oh buddy, it's like the Red Sea opening. And you can walk in to paradise. And all of those things that you've been doing that you didn't like doing, now you don't have to do them. All of those jobs that you didn't like but you were just working them, you can quit them and get the job that you like. You can start doing the things that you love doing. And as you do this, you will be creating food, clothing, shelter, education, transportation, all of infrastructure in an abundance so that not only will your city, your town, and your state, and your nation, but it can spread across the world, and it can become like heaven on earth because you woke up. So, yes, the whole world is deceived, and somebody needs to tell you. But it's not good enough just to tell you that you're deceived. You got to show them that they're deceived, and that's not good enough. You got to show them the way out of deception. And that's what this message has been about today. To show you that you're in deception, and at the same time to show you the way out. I pray that you got it. Once again, this is Eddie Marcus saying goodbye.